Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy and I'll be your host. We are going to be working on a very beautiful dish. We're going to be working with some beautiful local lamb ribs, and I'll show you just everything else we'll be using. So to that I'm going to be incorporating some soy sauce, some honey and some dry red wine. I've also got some zucchini there and some white wine, which I'll be showing you what I'll do with later. And then I also have some beautiful fresh parsley here. I've got some chopped coriander, some fresh mint, some beautiful garlic cloves that have already been peeled, and some red onion. I also have some salt and pepper for seasoning, and last but not least, some beautiful rosemary. So we're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how to turn this beautiful dish into the best lamb ribs you've ever had. See you after the short break. Welcome back ladies and gentlemen. For those who missed the introduction, you're just about to see what you missed, and I'll just explain it as we go along. I'm going to be working with this beautiful short ribs. So this is lamb ribs, very lean, very beautiful meat. I'm going to be incorporating a couple of ingredients, but first I'm gonna get my pot ready hot and I'll just take you through the rest. So very simple dish, actually a very beautiful classic that we're going to be working with today. One of the most interesting dishes I have come across in a long time. So very simple dish. We are just going to be slow cooking this on our pot here. So this does not need to go on a casserole dish into the oven unless you really have the time to do it. But the best way to make it, do it always in your pot and just do it fresh. Okay. So to my pestle and mortar here, I'm just going to add some garlic and some mint. Be sure to break the stems off because those are not easily going to crush in your mortar. So be sure to just rip the leaves off. Make sure not to have any stems inside. So here I'm using about a tablespoon of mint leaves. So we're going to be crushing this together with a bit of salt here. And I'm also going to be adding a bit of my parsley. I'm not even gonna chop it, it's just gonna go in as it is. And then we're just gonna stem a bit of those rosemary shoots there. So I'm using about 2 sprigs of rosemary. You can use 1. I just like the potency and the tastes that come from the rosemary and the honey combination. So I would say 2 to 3 sprigs or 3 to 4 sprigs really does really well with this dish. Right, so very simple. First of all, going to start by browning this in the pot. So to that I will add a bit of oil. So I'm going to add very little oil to this dish. So that's about 2 tablespoons. And all I'm going to do now is drop my lamb in there. And we're just going to let this color and brown. We're just going to try and develop the flavors first before we add anything else. Right, and in my pestle and mortar, I'm just going to work that quickly. So what you're looking for is a very fine paste. Use your stick as well to just pound them down for the bigger chunks that are not really grinding quickly. And then remember, I also added in a bit of salt in here. I'm gonna add a bit of black pepper as well. And I'm also going to crush a bit of some black peppercorns in there. So what you're looking for is something that has a consistency almost like a paste, but not very fine. So the lamb is now cooking at medium heat. We're not gonna cover it, we're just going to leave it open. And I'm just gonna bring my heat a little higher now. And we're just going to finish off with our herbs. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so as you can see, not a very fine paste, but it's broken down enough. You actually managed to get all the garlic, all the rosemary coming right up from the mortar. And all we are going to do is add all that into our big pot here. And I'm going to also be adding our chopped coriander. Also going to add about a cupful of chopped red onions. And last but not least, we're also going to be squeezing in some lemons. So for this, I'm going to be working with about two half lemons. So I'm just gonna juice those in here. Right, so this is quite a tedious dish when you begin. It's a little laborsome from the beginning. But remember, once all your ingredients are in there, all you need to do is put it on low heat, let it cook slowly, let it simmer, let the flavors really develop in there. And this should be ready in about half an hour. Okay, so I have been using now 2 half lemons, and I'm only going to be using the juice. We're gonna give that a stir. Right, so nice, beautiful chunks there. And I'll give you a secret to cooking lamb this way. The beauty of it is the bones really contain a bit of marrow and a bit of juices. When you actually cook it slowly and start off with it as dry as it is, you actually allow the meat to really ooze out the juices in there. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to be adding any water in here. We're gonna let the meat really just bleed out a little bit, get the juices flowing, and then we're just gonna incorporate our wet ingredients. Okay, so now this is just about starting to brown. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a short break, and we're gonna let that continue browning for maybe about another 10 minutes. And when we come back, I'm going to show you everything else that's gonna go into the dish. I'm gonna show you a little mix that we're gonna be playing with. We're gonna be working with some zucchini, some white onions, and some parsley. I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful vegetable bed that this is going to be going on. And we're just gonna come back and finish the dish off. So don't touch that dial, we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are just about done with this beautiful dish. So for those who were following this, the process and you just missed what went into it. So basically in the big pot here, I have some beautiful lamb ribs. I've got some garlic, some rosemary. I've got some honey, some soy sauce. I've got some red wine. I've got red onions. I've got, yeah, it's literally a really, really good mix. Remember, this is not something that I would serve spicy. I try to keep it as natural as I possibly can. But now just to finish this dish off, I'm going to just redirect the cameras this way for a little bit. And I'm just going to show you a very, very simple way to just play around with the plating of such a dish. And for that, I will be using some zucchini and some white onions. And I'll also be using some red onions here that I've reserved on the side just for garnish. I've got some beautiful parsley here also for garnish. Right, so while we give that pan a bit of time to heat up, I'm just gonna go in with a tiny little bit of oil. And our goat is now nice and cooked, so this is about ready to serve. So I'll just turn that down. We're just gonna give that a minute. So on the side here, I've got a beautiful heavy base pot going, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to saute the zucchini and the onions, and I'm just going to use this as a bed to actually present my lamb on. So this is just a way to present your lamb. Remember, we haven't focused much on ciders that you could serve with this, but I always insist that you, as the person who's making the dinner, you should own the menu. You should have a whole lot of ideas to serve this with, and once you see what it looks like, I'll let the imaginations come your way. Right, so to this beautiful pan on the side here, I'm just going to add the white onions. I'm just gonna saute those lightly. So I'm just gonna give that about just under a minute to just sweat out. Just consistently just give it a mix. Don't let it sit unattended, otherwise your onions will brown too fast. And to that I'm gonna add my nicely chopped zucchini. Right, so we're just going to bring the heat a little higher. And while that continues, I'm just going to start plating this. So I'm just going to redirect you to the center of the table, and I'll just take you through the process of how I would garnish this beautiful plate. So in the beautiful the beautiful ramekin in front of me, I have some of the sauce that is in the pot. So I'm just going to use that to just set the base for my plate. So I'd normally just go about 4 drops, or rather 4 very small teaspoons right in the center there. Right, and all I would do is I would just play with my spoon. I'd just be random. Remember, as I said, there is not really a set way to plate. I just prefer to show you how I would do it, so that if you are looking for the ideas out there, definitely you will be able to see them here on Dinner Guide, of course. Okay, my zucchini is now done, and we're just going to go straight into plating. Right, so if you're just joining in here, I have some just zucchini and white onion, just lightly sauteed in a little bit of oil. And I'm just going to move those onto my plate. So remember, these have just lightly been cooked, so I'm not really going to cook them till they're very mushy. I do want to serve them with a bit of a bite. And now we are going to go in with our lamb. I'm just gonna give that a mix just before we take it out. So you'll be able to see the colors. It's got a very, very beautiful aroma coming from all the fresh herbs that we used. Remember, we did not use any dry spices in here. We've used everything fresh, so the aromas are really, really strong. Right, so easy as pie. I'm just going to start moving those onto my plate. And as I mentioned earlier, this is not something that would be very saucy by nature, so I would always recommend try and always give a nice accompaniment with this. So fries would really work well, or just some steamed simple rice would really do well. And you can actually serve it on its own if you're doing a barbecue at home and you just wanted to do your lamb a little different. Not a bad option to go with. So I'm just going to finish moving these onto my plate. So I was working with about 800 grams to 900 grams of lamb ribs. This would probably be able to serve 2 to 3 people if you're having it as a light starter. But if it's just going to go on its own, I would say even between a family of 4 with kids, this would really, really work well. Okay, so I'm just going to grab some of that extra sauce that's the bottom of my pot, and I'm just going to use my spoon to spread that around. Right, so that is as simple as the dish can be. That's as simple as this dish could be served. As I always insist, don't be limited to what you see on the show. You can actually come up with your own styles of presentation. So I'm just going to finish this off with a bit of onions and a bit of some rosettes of parsley, fresh parsley. Last but not least, just 2 sprigs of mint on the top. Maybe just a few more. Right, so simple as that. So this is just now ready to serve. As you can see, as I mentioned to the viewers at home, sometimes you actually need the simplest ingredients, and as you've been able to see from the introduction we did to the show, very, very simple ingredients, very easy to acquire most of these. I would normally serve this with a bit of red wine, so I'm going to be serving this with the same dry red wine that we were serving, that we used to cook this earlier. And yeah, I would say it's been a pleasure. It's been fun creating this dish with all of you. I do hope you all get a chance to try this at home. Do follow our Facebook page, leave your comments, leave your inquiries. Do also check out our other previous shows. Just have a feel of what exactly you have missed or what is to come. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to actually be with you today. My name is Chef Andy and I've been your host for tonight. You have been watching BrandPlus TV and the name of the show is Dinner Guide. So from my end and from the studios, have a lovely night. See you soon.